Hi, everybody. Welcome to another month, another Sharing Hope Community Conversations. My name is Nimade. I am the Diversity and Equity Fellow with NAMI Delaware. And each month we bring you these conversations to talk about different things happening in the world and how they affect us, and specifically the BIPOC community. So it is March, which is Women's History Month. And so we wanted to make the topic focused on just that, women. So today we're going to be talking about cultivating friendships and mentorships. And I have two great guests with me, Aisha Monroe and Khairat Makanjuola. And so I'm going to have them both introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, and then let's get started from there. Khairat, do you want to go first?
I can do that. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you, Nimadi, for letting me be a part of this. I think this might be the first of hopefully many. My name is Khairat Makanjuola. I'm the Director of Internal Audit for Delaware's public pension system. I know Nimadi from us being in the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban Leagues, Young Professionals, and I'm also an adjunct professor at Wilmington University. I'm a mom of two little kids. I don't think you need the rest of my life story. That's it.
That's a great start. And Aisha?
Hello, I mirror the same sentiments. Thank you for having me. My name is Aisha Monroe. I am your current Miss Wilmington, running for Miss Delaware, fingers crossed, in May. I am a Wilmington alum, graduate times 2.5. I'm actually in their doctoral program in prevention science. So 3 is coming up. I'm currently the assistant director for student success at Widener University.
Nice, thank you. Well, thank you both for joining to talk about this topic. I think it's an interesting one because we are very much in a time that's like women empowerment, rah, 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 like, yes. And sometimes that feels wonderful, like, yes, we're in this together. And then sometimes it also feels a little hollow, like we're just saying the words, but like, are we really empowering each other? Are we really cultivating friendships? So like, let's start off with that. Like, what does it mean to you when you hear cultivating friendship? Like, what does that entail for you to build that type of friendship relationship?
That's a loaded question. And it's like, it's not that a one size fits all. I think before you can cultivate a friendship, you got to do the internal work, the internal work of being at peace or just understanding who you are for yourself before you can try to navigate another relationship or a friendship. Because I believe that friendships are another form of relationship that you have to be intentional with. So before you can be intentional with someone else, it got to start from inside. So it's really understanding who you are, because I noticed growing up, what I looked for in friendships as a child is completely different than what I look for as an adult. And the way that I understand emotions and communicate is different. So taking that time to really understand who you are for yourself and be okay with that evolving, and then your friendships evolving. Because in college, you see you have those forever friends, and sometimes they're not your forever friends, but you realize just based off of proximity that you guys are really close. And then when distance came between you, it was like, friend, are we not friends? Or it's really just understanding that bonds like support look like a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Khairat?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything that Aisha said. What I am realizing, being an adult who is not very good at making friends ever, I'm realizing that, you have to be intentional about literally pursuing a friendship. So I'm just going around telling people, hey, I think you're a cool person. I want to be your friend. Actually, we're already friends in my head. But I'm going to try and, actually show up for you. I'm going to check in on you. Like, I'm really going to put in time to nurture the friendship. And I noticed that when I'm intentional about putting myself forward like that, it is often reciprocated. So yeah, that's what I would add.
No, I agree with that. And I have to say, I feel like friendships are so much harder to find as an adult outside of your work, right? Like and Aisha, you mentioned it, the proximity, right? So your schooling, your work, a lot of my friends are like work friends. And it's so funny too, because they'll say, you know, oh, well, we're friends for work. And then when we move on, we'll probably won't be friends anymore. And I'm like, oh no, once you're a friend, you're stuck with me. And those people are like my Florida friends still stuck with me, even though I'm in Delaware. But now that I'm in Delaware, I've noticed that it's hard actually to make friends as an adult because people have their friend groups. And so if you're not coming in through church or school or work, it's like, well, how do you make those friendships even when you connect over, like we're both in young professionals, so we interact, but like how do you turn that into a friendship? So like that's, I guess, my next question for you all is, how do you see someone, you're like, oh, I want to be friends with them, like how do you go forth with it? Because we all know with relationships, like, oh, you talk to a guy, but like how do you do that with friendships with other women?
I think Erica Badu said it the best. Like, I pick my friends like I pick my fruit. You got to be real careful. But then I'm also learning as an adult that there are people who are friends. There are people who will be mentors. There'll people be assignments. There'll people be advisors. And that discernment, it goes with time. It's not like instant. Because I know I had a connection with one of my coworkers because they're like the same color. And then after that, it was just like, so we like the same color. What else? And to go back as a kid, you could make friends and be like, I want to sit next to this person because we wear the same color. So I think there's fear in friendship, and there's fear about giving yourself to a person as far as friends and not being reciprocated. Or there's a lot of hurt too in friends. Because I would say it hurt me to spend 4 years of college with these group of people, and then we graduate and it's like, wow, where you at? And we supposed to be going to each other's weddings. And that I don't have the answer to that question, but to draw that picture, it hurts, but because you invest so much time and energy in it, you want it to work, just like a relationship. I would hope and it's assumed that you will work hard, and it's like a tool, it's a daily practice, and it's also a responsibility. And I think the responsibility of friendship is oftentimes where you get those disconnects in people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would just continue on from where I left off, which is literally reaching out to someone and say, hey, I think we have this in common. You know, I would like to talk to you in person at the next event. So like, for example, with the YPs, every time we have an in-person event, I try to make it to the in-person event. And, you know, if it's someone that I really want to talk to, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, are you going to be at this event? You know, so if you're going to be there, then let's chat, let's have a conversation. Every conversation doesn't always result into a potential friendship that's blossoming, but at least that's somebody else that I know, right? Like, I'm not going to be friends with everybody that I meet, but I might be able to lean on them for something, for a question or a resource or something like that. So usually for me, that's kind of where it starts to grow. And then, you know, after a few conversations, then it's, maybe I need help with something. Can you help me with this? It could be me asking, it could be the other person asking me. And then again, this is just me personally, but after we've had lunch, we are now officially friends. So if we haven't had lunch yet, if we have not shared a meal together, and we're still working on it. But usually that's how my friendships form. And then to also piggyback on what she said earlier about mentors, I've also had mentors that actually became friends. So a lot of people tend to look at mentoring relationship as almost like you're getting something from someone else. It's like a one-sided kind of thing, but it actually doesn't have to be, because even as a mentee, you always have something to contribute or something to share with your mentor that could potentially help them. And then from there, if your relationship is give and take, like it's going both ways, then you start to talk about other things outside of your formal mentoring relationship. And I would say actually that's how I've maintained some friendships for close to 2 decades now. We started as mentor mentees and now we're really, really good friends. They're, inviting me to their in-laws' weddings and whatnot. So that's what I would say.
It's nice too when friendships grow in sort of like an organic way that way. Now I mentioned too that I'm recently moved to Delaware, even though actually 2018, it's been a while now, but those COVID year makes it like the COVID years make it seem like I've only been here. So I was only out and about for a little while before I got shut in. But when I came, it was with the express purpose of like working on my career and changing over my career. So I have built a lot of like really good connections. But I wasn't until last year when I had a birthday party and only a couple people came that I was really like humbled, because normally when I throw a birthday party like in Florida or when I was in New York, it's like everyone came. And then this time it was like 2 people came. I was like, oh, but what about these connections that I made? And I realized it's because I've been making great work connections. So like we are networking, we are vibing, we're asking each other to speak at things, go to each other's events, but I wasn't really cultivating any friendships. Now you're both women with, you listed off all of the things that you do and all the things that you're involved with. Do you sometimes find, or do you ever have that struggle as well, where you feel like you're building more work relationships and not building like actual friendships?
I would say for me, that's going to be mostly true, right? Because I already said at the beginning of this, I don't know how to make friends really well. I'm a very introverted person. I don't talk to new people ever. The fact that I'm even in this organization of my own volition is, trust me, is quite a step for me to voluntarily put myself in a situation where I don't know anyone and I have to talk to everyone. So yeah, for me, I would say most of the time it's work connections. It's people that I met at a work conference, and then I kept in touch with them over the years. It's people that I met as a result of being a part of a professional organization. And then I had to ask them a question for something. And then because we corresponded for so long, then we started to talk about personal stuff. So then we formed a friendship. So for me, I would say that's a lot of the time true. But if you're an introverted person and you're forming these connections as a result of work, I would just say give yourself time to continue to get to know these people. The personal stuff will eventually grow. It's not going to happen as quickly and as organic as somebody that you met for the purpose of being a friend, not necessarily for the purpose of work. So that's what I would say.
That's true.
I agree. I've learned that I can be an introvert or extrovert. And I blame my sorority for that, because as a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, we're in the community. So I am forced to talk to people, even though I'm just like, hey, I'm here picking up trash or helping you register to vote or talking to you about women's health. I'm like, I don't know you from a can of paint, but I'm supposed to talk to you. And I think what allows friendships to be formed and cultivate are those initial shared values and beliefs. Because over time, you'll realize when you're being transparent and honest that it changes, because people show you one way in the beginning. It's like the honeymoon stage. It's like, girl, we got all this in common. I'm just like, really? No, we don't. But I like you. And I think it comes down to like your threshold and tolerance. And it sounds bad when I say threshold and tolerance, but it's like just being honest, but that comes with time. Because I'm forced to talk to people and represent a different multiple brands, I have to be like a chameleon and adjust. And it's just like, we're connecting and we're vibing, but honestly, I just had to do this because I had to talk to you. But it doesn't mean you're not worth getting to know. It's just later on down the line, we'll realize like the connection was here and we both wanted something different, but it's a communication and it's literally a daily practice. And I feel like we see the same thing over and over so far, but it's just what you put in and what you get out. And when you have those friendships where you're overpouring to a certain extent, there's that threshold where you realize it's not benefiting me to remain friends. And that goes back to having a conversation, but it's about awareness and responsibility and ownership and respect. So it's like kind of like a application. You know how on Thanksgiving they'll have these random applications for boyfriend and girlfriend for the holidays. It's kind of like that
Yeah.
with friends, but you do it internally and you just hope that the person that you've seen and you made that initial connection stays with you.
Mhm. No, that's so true. And I think it's interesting as well that you mentioned, being more introverted, but all of the side things you do. And you too as well, Khairat, because people would be surprised at how actually much more introverted I am. I'm an ambivert, which means I fuel from being by myself and alone, and that's how I get my energy. But like when I'm out in public, I can be in public, like I'm not super shy or whatever. But like with an extrovert, being out fills them, that's where they get their fuel. Like it drains me, like it really drains me. And like I'll go outside once, I'm like, okay, I need 3 days alone now, thank you.
Same. I
yeah,
get home and I'm like, I'm done peopling for today. No one
Yes.
speak to
That
me.
battery runs out. I was like, oh, it's time. All right.
Yes. And I think that happens. I think that happens a lot with us introverts, or even just us ambiverts, because we know, like, while I would prefer to go to an event and like sit in the back and be quiet and just observe, like if I'm the one in charge or if I'm doing stuff, like I have to, mingle and talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And you'll find, like, unless that's the role I'm in, I'm pretty quiet into the back, and it will surprise people because they expect you to be like out all the time. But a lot of us we prefer for it quiet, which makes it difficult sometimes as well getting friends. But it's also good because when you click, like you click.
You value it, you nurture it. When you find that person that has, like she said, your shared values, you guys care about the same things, you guys prioritize the same things, because it can also be like one-sided. You can't be the only one that's giving, that's checking. The other person has to be, at least meeting you halfway, right? So when you find that person, you, as an introvert, I think you work even harder to maintain those friendships, because that's quality now. That's not just, I have so many people that I call friends,
And
and then those relationships become really important.
And I think to add to that, as women in general, it's kind of instilled in us for us to be everybody's friend and nurture and connect, when sometimes that's draining, but I feel like you learn those tools of when your battery is tapped out. Because if I would have known what I know now, and to go back to my high school and elementary, middle school stuff, I'd have been like, I don't need to hang out with none of y'all. I would just sit here, be a nerd, read my book, because eventually it's going to be cool. But I think the times are also changing. And I also didn't grow up with social media and that comparison and that instant gratification. Like, I have some friends who, if I don't text them, they're just like, well, she don't love me no more. I was asleep. I'm at work. I do love you, but I'm gonna choose me. And it's just something that adds another layer of almost like a barrier, but it's a conversational piece. But if you don't have the tools to have the conversation, you just be like, oh no, I'm gonna wait. This period of time will pass, and we'll outgrow it, or we'll get past it, and then it gets harbored, and then there's in my experience, a blow up or just tears, and it's just like, we were friends, and it's just like, well, I don't know. And I'm going on my tangent, but because I also work with students, so trying to get them to understand that where you are right now is just a spot, is not your final destination. So there'll be those heartbreaks, those college loves. We're going to be together for the rest of our lives. And then spring break, you're no longer together. Your groups are intermingled. So you have to re-identify who you are and what you liked, because you liked it for that person. And I saw that in my friendships in college. Like, we had similar things, but I really didn't like it, but I didn't want to be by myself. So it's just like, you got to find that balance, or the balance finds you eventually.
Yeah. And someone in chat said very true. And it is. I think because life is a journey, right? And one of the quotes that I've heard once that I love is that, like, life isn't about finding yourself. It's about taking off all the layers that have been put on you to find your true self, because we kind of know who we are. And we, I think, get so much in a place where we want to fit in, especially when we're younger. Like, we just, standing out seems like the worst thing in the world, and you just want to fit in. So like, while now in my mid-30s, I'm like, I love all the things about me that make me unique. Like, it's what makes me special. It's what people like about me. It's how I meet new people. When I was a teenager, I hated every single one of those things. I just wanted to be like everybody else. So I think part of that growth too is growing out of the friendships that you feel like you have to perform for and be a certain for, and really taking the time to find those friendships where you can just be yourself. And that person loves you for who you are as an individual. And those friendships are just, like you said before, worth nurturing and worth putting in that energy for, because you feel different. And like, I feel different in my spirit when I'm with people who I can be myself around versus people who have to kind of like watch what I say and watch what I do.
That's hard. That is a hard pill to swallow, navigate. It's a hard conclusion to come to, because you don't want to be by yourself. You don't want to be that friend that stopped trying and didn't have hope and don't want to go through the trenches. But it's like, when I think about friendship, it's not about what someone can do for you. It's like who you are when you and that other person become who the two people become in each other's presence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that that's important. Do you both, or do either of you, like, in my mind with friendships, like, I use the word friends because that's the easiest way to describe things. But I would say there's layers to this game in my head. You know what I mean? Like, there's my family, there's my best friends, there's my friends. And then there's most people who are really just mostly friendly acquaintances. Like, we're friends, but we're not friends. Most people are friendly acquaintances, and then there's the friend level. And is that something that you guys do in your head as well?
I'm not in my head, because that is exactly how I categorize people, right? Like, I have lots of acquaintances, people that I know from different walks of life or whatever. But like, my friend is someone that I can be myself around 100%. I can be my true, authentic self. And I don't know that I have many of those. I don't even think I can count them on like two hands, right? It's like a really special group of people, and not all of them even know each other. So like, I have friends from college, I have friends from my high school in Nigeria, I have friends from the different places that I've worked that I still keep in touch with. But again, when I'm talking to these people, I don't hide myself, I don't hold back, and they don't hold back with me either. They too feel like they can be their true, authentic self with me. So that's kind of how I view them. Just a lot of acquaintances, people that I'm friendly with, people that I can talk to about stuff. But like, my inner circle is like really, really like special. So yeah.
Definitely levels to it. And then add the friends that I think that I have on social media that like all my posts that I never met.
Yes, the friends in your social media, friends in your head.
Yes. Celebrities that I think I know that are friends with you. Yeah. We just gonna put them in there too. It's definitely levels.
We talked about how, friendships is not just what you get from it, it's what you give and how you make the person feel. But there are some friendships where it starts off with what you get from it, which is mentorship. We talked a little bit about it before, and how sometimes those mentorships can grow into friendships. But what is a good way would you say to start a mentorship? Like, how have you ever, like, just out of the blue reached out to someone to be a mentor? Have you been paired with mentorship? Like, what has that been like for you, or what advice would you give to someone trying to get a mentor?
I think for it to go to mentor, there has to be some type of standard that person set and that they requested and people gravitated toward it. And mentorship for me has leadership elements, and leadership is the behavior. So it has to be something about a mentor that I'm trying to aspire to be like, or they have some wisdom and I'll sit down, you have some discernment. It's just something about that connection that automatically is authentic, but comes with some sort of learning lesson and just respect too. But it's not saying that I don't respect my friends, but mentorship has that a different layer of friendship, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I would say that I have both of those, both of what you described. So I have been a part of formal mentorship programs where, you're literally like assigned a mentor who you can go to and ask questions of. And we have like regularly scheduled meetings where we talk about whatever the mentee wants to talk about. But I have also approached people to be my mentor because of what she said. I saw certain qualities, certain characteristics that I wanted to learn from them. And I don't know if everyone is aware of this, but there's this idea of having a champion when you're at a workplace. So if you're at a workplace where they don't have a formal mentoring program, for example, and you identify someone who's at a high level, who has all the leadership qualities that you like, but also has a degree of influence. Maybe they're in the room where the decisions are being made. I would recommend that you seek that person out and have them be your champion. So your champion is now even much more than just your mentor, because your mentor is there, giving you advice. Okay, maybe try this way, try that way. No, your champion is somebody who is literally fighting for you and saying, I think this person would be good for this job, or would be good for this client, or would be good for this program or event. And I think you should put them there. So in my career, I have sought people out for that specific purpose, to be my champion, to, literally have my back. And the way that I sort of walked into that relationship was, I just put all my cards on the table, right? I'm like, listen, I'm new here. I don't know anything about the culture. I really don't know what I'm doing. I know you guys saw something on my resume and you hired me, and I want to do a great job, but I don't just want to come here and do a great job. I want to actually, contribute. I want my experience here to be meaningful. And based on A, B, C, D, E, F, G that I've seen about you, I think you would be a good spokesperson for me. So would you please take me under your wing? And that has always worked, right? People have always said, oh, yes, absolutely. I would be willing to, do this for you and do that for you. But in the same token, like I was saying earlier about the mentoring relationship being a give and take, I'm also making sure that I'm the first to sign up for that person's passion project. If they need a volunteer for something, if they need somebody to stay a little bit later to handle something or the other, I'm usually the first person to say, oh yeah, I'll sign up for that, because I know, again, this person taking me under their wing, they now have my back. They're going to advocate for me in the organization. So I've done both of those. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I haven't even thought of the champion and that role. That is something that's good to look out for to help you with your journey.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention also something that Aisha mentioned regarding friends being upset about not texting. I'm one of those, like I like solid communication, but I think it's also important to know like your friend. And I know that I have friends who I won't hear back from them for a couple of days. That's just how they text it. They'll look at it and come back. And then I have the friends who will come back regularly. I have friends like true in that circle of like best friends who we actually only talk like once every couple of years. Like we'll have like a long 3-hour long conversation, but that's in my circle of like, if anything happened to me today, I know I could contact that person. And if they could, they would be there for me. And so I think it's important to know like with your friendships, where they are in that, especially when we get in the area of like mental health, because sometimes people will clock out because they are going through it and they need it. Like barely anyone heard from me last year. I was going through it, but I do appreciate the people who reached out to me to say like, hey, are you okay? If you need to talk, I'm here, even though I didn't want to talk, but I appreciated that. So how do you guys, I guess, navigate that either with yourselves, if you've ever had depression or anxiety where you needed to pull away, or if you've had a friend who has done it, like how have you navigated the friendship with those mental health concerns?
I would say ask questions. I used to be one of those people that I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to be weird or be extra or too vulnerable. but it was one of those situations where I had a friend who didn't respond to calls or texts. And I was like, hey, business as usual. They'll respond. And we all had to have a come to Jesus moment and talk. Like, but it goes back to like knowing who you are, but also how to communicate that so that other people can hear it and receive it. Because they could be texting, I'm fine. And I could read it as she's fine. Or it could be real sarcastic or a little bit of fire. I'm fine. I'm like, oh, but we don't know that. And it came to the point where we had to have a conversation. It's like, anybody see this person? Anybody say this person? And I'm one of those people, but because I'm a mental health advocate and because I had a mental breakdown where in 2017 and 2018, where I communicated it differently and it looked differently. So I work with an understanding and I communicate with my friends like, hey, let me know if it's okay with you. I'll text you every couple of days to check on you, let you know that it's proof of life and I'm good. So I know how to communicate that. But before then, having to tug and pull and for it to feel like conflict, and it was just like, it shouldn't feel like conflict, but there's sometimes good conflict and bad conflict because we learned something from it. It just required both parties or all parties to just really express their unexpressed expectations. So it's kind of like when you're dating someone and you ask them, there's some people who automatically text good morning. And it's like, well, can you text me good morning? I would like if you do this. Or I don't like you texting me good morning. Text me good afternoon, or just text me a funny meme. It really is just a conversation, but you have to learn how to have it, but you don't know when to have it. It's like that unknown, and you don't know until you burn your hand that I should have reacted differently or I should have approached it differently. So I don't really have an answer because it's a conversation, and it really just depends on the level of friendship. Like if it's somebody that I really truly care about, that's like my friend, like my best friend, I would do trial and errors for months with her to figure it out. But if it's somebody that I just met, it's like you kind of have to earn that with me, like earn your role, earn your place. It sounds a little childish, but it's the truth. Like, I need to know that we value the same thing. Show me how you value me in our friendship, and I'll show you more effort. I'll show you more grace. I'll show you more vulnerability, because there are friends who have access, but there are friends who don't have transparency.
Yeah. And I don't think it sounds childish or anything. I think that speaks to boundaries, which we talk about a lot, which are important. You can't save everyone. You can't be everything for everyone. And so knowing where your energy is going to and that it's truly needed and best used there is I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't have anything to add. She said it perfectly. It really depends on the intimacy that you have in your friendship in order to be able to discern, this is like a normal, she's good, she's fine, I don't need to do a drive-by, to go check up on her, or is something else going on. It really just depends on how close you are with that person. I know for me, for the people that I'm close with, I at least do a touch point at least like every other week, right? Maybe just a quick, hey, hope you're doing good, just checking in. So if I don't do that and like weeks go by, then I will have people reaching out and say, hey, I haven't seen your brake light in a minute. Are you alive? Are you okay? And I can just be like, oh, just dealing with something at the moment, but just give me another 2-3 weeks. I'll sort through what I'm going through and I'll check in, and then I can tell you all about it. Right. So like just communication, exactly what she said. It's about the communication. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great that people know like when to check on you and your like different behaviors as well, because something that we talk about with NAMI and teaching like family to family is why it's good and it's important to have sort of a plan with your mental health, especially like I struggle with major depression and anxiety as well. So I know my triggers, like, and it took me a while to really realize them. Like one of mine is everyone thinks depression is sadness, but I actually start getting irritated. Like I'm normally a fairly happy person. Like it takes a lot to bug me, but when I start getting irritated at everything and everyone for more than a couple of days, I'm like, better get some sunshine, better do something, like it's coming. And sometimes it comes out of the blue, but sometimes you have a warning. But it's good to have that sort of plan with your family and friends because kind of like you said, Khairat, like when I'm going through it, I don't necessarily want to talk about it. And I know people want you to talk about it, but I feel like, why am I putting that burden on you if you can't help me in this situation? Then I now feel guilty that I put on you. But like it's my own cycle and it's my own thing. But it is important for people to know who I would talk to regularly, like when I'm pulling away, even if I may not want to have like a full conversation about everything going on, them just checking in on me like, hey, are you good? Making sure everything's all right. And it's going to be a short answer, not like my usual, like, hey girl, let me tell you what happened. I'll be like, no, I'm fine. And they kind of know that that means something's up, but they also are respecting that I'm still checking in. So I that's something I always really want to reiterate with people is to have that, even if in your mind you're not thinking of it as an official plan, if mental illness is something that you do live with, have those check plans in place with your family and friends that they can know like some warning signs to know to look out with for you.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Like I've never even thought about, maybe I should make a plan, right? I've just kind of pushed through life and dealt with whatever came along. But being vocal about what that plan looks like is only going to be to the benefit of all of us. And we don't necessarily have to be struggling with, a mental challenge to even come up with a plan. You can just do that like on a regular. So
yeah, because life is life and sometimes.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Life is life and sometimes you need a plan anyway.
I also learned about asking if people want advice or just a listening ear. And then that allowed them to open up and be like, oh, so if you just want to vent, I got you. If you want advice, let me know what's the order of this communication. Like you tell your story and then we'll give a break, woosah time, and then I'll give you either the advice or be like, okay. Because listening ear could just be like, do you want me to be like, yeah, because sometimes that's off-putting when you're telling a story. They're like, yeah, girl, yeah. It's like, you're not really listening, but I am. I just it's navigating the roles and the responsibility of communicating.
And that is a huge one. I suggest that to people all the time is like, and I learned it because of my mother, because I love that woman, but she always has a resolution for everything. And sometimes I'm like, I just want you to listen to me while I vent. Like, I don't need you to have a resolution. I know a resolution. Or like, sometimes I just need a dramatic moment to get it off my chest. And then I'll get back to rational thinking, like, just let me vent. And so because of that, I now with other people will say, like, are you coming to me for advice or do you just want to vent and have me commiserate with you and be like, oh, that sucks. Like, what do you need from me so that I know how to properly navigate that? And I think that that's huge and makes a big difference with conversations with everybody. So when we started this, I mentioned, how I feel like women empowerment is really big right now, which I love. I wish people are more sincere, but for the most part, I think a lot of people are. And I think that they really are moving towards supporting other women. So before we wrap up the recording part of this, I just wanted to ask both of you, like, what are some ways that you empower other women or feel like other women empower you?
I guess I can go first. So I have been fortunate to lead a team of women in my previous position, not the position that I have right now. Well, actually, position that I have right now, I do have women on my team. But for the most part, I've always worked with primarily women, right? So, and this is also going to be coming from my perspective as a mom. So I work with, women who have children, who are managing not just their own work schedules, lives, or whatever, but they're also managing like children's doctor appointments and yada, yada, yada. So my approach has always been to give to these women what I wish was given to me when I was coming up through the rank. And the biggest thing that you can do to empower a woman is to give her flexibility. Flexibility to shift things around if necessary, come in a little bit later in the morning because they have to drop someone off somewhere, or work a little bit later to, make up time. Or if they don't want to come into the office that day because maybe they need a mental health day, right? But we have a deadline that's coming up, then, if they want to come in during the weekend to, get their work done, just give them that flexibility, give them that room, give them that autonomy to kind of make decisions about how they want to shift their own priorities. Because like I said, that's something that I wish I had when I was coming up through the ranks, and I didn't always have that. I do have that now, but for me, that's just like my guiding principle. Everybody that I work with, I want them to always know, I'm not here to micromanage you. I'm not here to police you. You already know what you're doing. You're the expert. I'm just here to support you. So whatever you need, flexibility, autonomy, I got you. So for me, that's how I'm empowering the women that I work with.
I like that. That's great. And I think that's needed. It's one of the plus parts about having a woman boss is that they tend to understand those things a little bit better.
I would add, be kind, be a good listener, show that you could be trusted. It's something about when you create that intentional space where everyone can be authentic and provide grace, that's where a lot of growth and relationship building happens. And it shows that you're being responsible, reliable, and dependent, and make yourself available. That's also how you empower people, because it could be that friend that always wants to hang out or can't hang out or cancels, but still just show up and, like you said, show up and still try, make yourself available, and just be mindful that life is life, and people may be going through a lot and present as if everything is rainbows and sunshine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but you never know what people are really dealing with, so it's important to always be kind. I could not agree with that more. Thank you both so much for joining me for this conversation, and everybody who's on the call as well. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to turn the recording off in a minute so anyone who's on the call can engage in the conversation, but this will be up on YouTube. Thank you to those of you who are watching this later for your viewing. There's other videos as well, so please tune in and check them out. And if you're not already subscribed to NAMI Delaware, please make sure to subscribe so you can see our other videos. Thank you.